Hello and welcome to another video from the only source of information that you need to not only survive the current apocalypse, but actually enjoy it. And today we're just going to talk about a single sentence that Jesus uttered that has a lot of information in it that the churches never talk about. And I don't know why no one's ever brought this up before. At least I've never heard of anybody bringing it up. Somebody will leave a comment saying they've heard this information before. I've never heard it. But the apostles, they had heard Jesus talk about the kingdom over and over again, so they understood that there would come a time when things would be different, but they wanted to know how it was different. You know, this is their future. God's kingdom was their future. They wanted to know, how is my future going to be better than my present? And so Jesus says, well, it's going to be like this. It's going to be like when a shepherd comes in to separate sheep from the goats. That's not a normal thing that shepherds do, because, I mean, I guess there are probably cultures where raising sheep and goats is normal, that you would have both. We never had both. When I was growing up, we always had farm animals, and we had sheep. We never had goats. But it's interesting that Jesus didn't say, I'm coming back to separate the good sheep from the bad sheep, because that's what we think Jesus is supposed to do. You know, great judgment day, you're going to take all the people that cussed and smoked cigarettes and send them to hell, and take everybody that went to church, put them in heaven. That's church teaching. That's not coming from me. But there's a lot you can learn from that. As humans, we really don't have different species. We're all basically the same. You know, like there are species that can mate with other species. And if you grow up on a farm, you know that. It's not a lot of them that can do it. I think like dolphins and whales or porpoises, they can do it. Horses and donkeys can do it. They're completely different species. But if they breed, if they mate, they'll make a mule. And I don't know that two mules can breed. I was told when I was a kid that if they mate, nothing happens. They don't make babies. And I don't know if that's true or not, but it sounds reasonable, you know. But we aren't. We're humans. We don't have different species. We have different races, but races are not species, because, you know, Chinese guy and a black lady get married, have babies. They're just normal kids. They can reproduce. They don't have health problems from that. In fact, they usually look really, really good. Anytime you get two people from two different races and they reproduce, they're always like tall and muscular and beautiful and healthy. Maybe because there's basically when the way we normally do it is just too close, like too many times that white people have reproduced with white people, black people with black people. So, you know, if you're going to have health problems, probably racial purity is a good way to get them. But here's the thing. If you look at the fossil record, a lot of cavemen bones have been found. You know, Cro-Magnon, Neanderthal, whatever. They've got names for all these skeletons. They do look like they were different species, at least to people that study that stuff. To me, they just look like, if you look at a Neanderthal skeleton, to me it looks like a white guy skeleton. It's not anything different. But when I look at a white guy skeleton and a black guy skeleton, they look identical. But people who study this stuff will look at it and go, oh, that was a Chinese guy, or, you know, an Asian guy. They can't really, with DNA they can break it down to exactly where the guy came from or whatever. But without that, they just measure the bones and they check the density and the shape of, I don't know, the frontal lobe or whatever. And they say, oh yeah, that's, because they have to do this all the time. They find dead bodies and they have to identify. They have to, the first step to figuring out what happened is to figure out who it is. So they send in these experts, they measure everything, and they say, okay, this was a 30-year-old woman from, probably black. And, but that's not a different species. That's just a different race. But when they say that they found a Neanderthal skeleton or a Cro-Magnon skeleton, a lot of religious people will be like, that stuff is fake. I don't think it's fake. But you remember, if you remember the Bible, in the very beginning, God said, I'm going to create light and dark, complete, going to make insects, going to make fish, going to make land animals. And then he made Adam. And he gave him some instructions, and the instructions were, have in subjection the fish, the birds, and the land animals. And so, one of the land animals that would have already been here would have been some of those cavemen. In other words, what I'm telling you is, when Adam and Eve came here, they had to be a specific type of human. They may have been Neanderthals or Cro-Magnon or Australopithecus or Africanus or any of them different species of humans, but they were sent here to take care of the other species of humans. And so I really believe that over the course of time, Adam and Eve had probably plenty of children with one another, but they probably had a whole lot more children with the other species of man that Adam and Eve were sent here to look after. I think it's important to know this because nobody else does. That's all. It's just, if you want to understand the world around you, rather than attaching yourself to some faith, some religion, and then just spewing out of your mouth whatever you hear your preachers spew out of his mouth, it's good to just look into these things a little deeper. Like the apostles are like, explain to us what it's going to be like. Well, it's going to be like a shepherd coming to separate a sheep from his goats. So basically he was telling them that mankind is made up of a lot of species, and I'm going to divide them all up one way or another. So I don't think he's going to put all the black people on one planet and all the Asian people on another planet. I simply think that there isn't some element within all of us. Might be DNA, might be something invisible, might be a spiritual thing. But there's some quality that was put into Adam and Eve to make them better at managing Earth than the qualities he put into the other humanoids. And so whatever that quality is probably going to be the thing that Jesus uses to determine what species we are. Just that one genetic marker or spiritual marker or whatever it is. I'm sure there's some kind of a science to it that no one today understands yet. Maybe we'll understand it a little better after the return of Jesus. But I think that anytime we can put some distance between ourselves and religion, we're better off. And so rather than just saying that all cavemen are fake, I think it's good to understand that at one time there probably were a lot of different species of human, and one species was put here to watch over all of the others. And Paul brought this out, and I can't remember which one of his letters, or it may not have even been Paul, because a lot of times we associate Paul with letters when letter don't say anything about who wrote it. You just have a letter saying greetings. But when Paul wrote, he said, greetings from me, my name is Paul. But in one of the letters that's attributed to Paul, it says that people were asking Paul, what's it going to be like in the resurrection? Same question the apostles were asking. And so the answer is probably a little bit more detail into what Jesus said. So Paul says, well, you saw what happened to Jesus. He came in, he was born in the flesh, he died, and he came back in the spirit. Jesus didn't come back as a ghost. He had some physical attributes that were fleshly. I mean, he could do a lot of miraculous, he walked on water and stuff while he was here the first time. And then when he came back, he did more powerful things than that, but he also did regular fleshly things. He sat down and ate with his apostles. He let Thomas put his hand in his side. When Thomas reached in there, he didn't say, wait a second, there's nothing here. He was like, oh my God, there's a hole in his side. So, that's a little bit more information. That we have more information about what our future holds for us than most people do. We already did that. But I've got, when I get up here and give these little speeches, I've got officially like 20,000 subscribers. There's probably 500 that actually understand what I'm about, and they're excited every time a new video comes out, and they're glad to learn new things. Maybe the others don't catch on. Maybe they do. I don't have any insight into it. The vast majority of my subscribers, if they even come here and watch anything, they don't participate. Don't say anything. So I don't know. But there will come a day when things will go back to the way they were supposed to be in the beginning, the paradise earth that God intended before humans started cutting down trees and killing animals and having wars and all that stuff. And since Jesus did say he was going to separate these people, I don't think he's going to, I guess he could just, like if the earth had a huge river, put all of one kind of people on one side and all other people on the other side, or send half the people to another planet. It's not outside of God's ability to do stuff like that. But I think a very good way to think about it is that there will be people with a little bit more sense than these typical NPC people. NPC meaning non-player characters. You can look it up. And some will guide the rest, and that's what will make the world a better place. That's why Jesus is coming back. He's our Father, and he's one of those people that has been put in charge. Just like Adam. When Adam was here, he was the only one. It doesn't mean he was going to be the only one forever, because him and Eve had children that were different than everybody else on the planet. And so when Jesus was here, he was pretty unique. Probably always be unique, but over time there'll probably be a lot of people that will come back with the same powers as Jesus and participate in watching over things, ruling the world, making sure that everybody is, comforted. Because that's what if you look at the word, like in Genesis where it says, have in subjection the fish of the sea, birds of the air, and the land animals. That word have in subjection basically means bring comfort. The churches, they read that and they go, oh, it's okay to eat cows and chickens. That's not what God was saying. He didn't give mankind permission to do that kind of stuff until after the flood, after 2,000 years of people doing it anyway. It's basically a lot of the stuff in the Bible where it says God told them it's okay to eat animals. It's basically because humans are going, we want to eat animals. And God says, I don't want you eating animals, but okay, go ahead and do that. And so, that's, I don't really know how to end this. That's basically probably everything I need to say. I'll try to make more videos about September 23rd. That's coming up, and that's really what I should be sticking to. But it was on my mind, and I thought, while my head is on this subject, I should probably share it. Maybe I'll do more videos like this. All right. Love y'all. If you don't want to survive, don't listen to me.